So, a little backstory to this review. Over the course of the year, things have been a little bit tough to deal with. YouTube has been going crazy with its algorithms. Advertiser friendly is a meme that refuses to die. And not to mention that so many outside forces are attacking YouTube by even the most pitiful of excuses. I found it necessary to revamp my Patreon and essentially offer requests to paying patrons. The deal is that I will either watch one movie or an equivalent length of a show. If the show has 22 minutes, you get 6 episodes. If the show has 11-minute episodes, you get 12, and so on. And by the end of it, I will make one review. And I've had some takers throughout the year who have been very patient with me. I've kinda made this reward months ago. It's just that things have been, a special kind of hell all year long in a variety of ways. And I do thank my patrons for their patience. So, what do we have to start with? The characters aren't teenagers, it has nothing to do with water, but it's one of Adult Swim's most popular shows of all time. Aqua Teen Hunger Force, requested by Seth Brookmeyer. And if you're curious, these are the episodes that he suggested I watch. With even this first request, I knew that I was going to start walking down some interesting paths. Much of what I've been requested to review is stuff that I normally wouldn't watch on my own. And this is probably the most obvious example of that. Let me put it this way. For any of my longtime viewers, did you ever expect me to make an Aqua Teen Hunger Force video? Aqua Teen is probably the most well-known Adult Swim show, or at least it was before Rick and Morty. Aqua Teen Hunger Force may very well be the stereotypical Adult Swim show, and knowing that gave me some apprehension going in. When I think of the typical Adult Swim style, my mind goes to things like Mr. Pickles, or something like Assy McGee, something that uses a lot of grotesque imagery because we're like adults and edgy. But going through the entire Adult Swim repertoire, that's not entirely a fair assessment, especially when it comes to this show. Not to say that there isn't moments like that in Aqua Teen, but overall, it's definitely a lot better than my preconceived notions. So if you're the only other person in the world who has never watched the show before, you're probably asking yourself, what is an Aqua Teen Hunger Force? And if you're asking that question, the show isn't for you. It's literally stated on the Amazon video list. But if it is important to you, in the first episodes, the Aqua Teen Hunger Force follows Meatwad, a meatball, Frylock, an order of fries, and Shake, a milkshake, solving crimes for money. However, this premise only lasts for the first couple of episodes and just completely fizzles out. This is because it was all a trick. You see, the Cartoon Network executives didn't want a show about food just going around and doing random things, so they made this fake premise in order to appease them. But before long, it did become a show about food just going around doing random things. A show which lasted 11 seasons and a movie over the course of 15 years, becoming one of the most popular adult cartoons in history. To become a television executive, do you have to purposely be bad at your job and continually make bad decisions? Is that a job requirement? By the way, when I say random, I really mean random. One episode is about the characters finding an evil sandwich that teleports them to hell. Another episode is about them finding a t-shirt that makes all of your wishes come true. Sometimes aliens or robot ghosts from the future show up. It's that kind of show, and it's something that you need to have a specific kind of taste for. Unfortunately, it's a taste that I myself do not have. It's not that I dislike the show. I certainly don't think that it's bad, but it's not something that I am personally going to want to come back to. I like a lot more grounding in my show, if you were. Aqua Teen Hunger Force is a show where literally anything can happen, and I have a hard time finding grounding in a show where literally anything can happen. It's kind of the same reason why I don't have much of an opinion of Uncle Grandpa. I don't hate it, but there's just nothing for me to gravitate to. For me to be invested in the comedy or the story, I need to be able to relate to these characters on some level. That's not to say that there aren't things about the show that I do like. One thing that really surprised me was how good the background art is. It's no secret that I almost expect adult cartoons to have terrible, terrible art, with uncanny expressions, gore, and just the most unpleasant imagery you can imagine. They tend to completely throw out the idea of the principle of appeal. The animation on at least our main characters is very fluid. Carl's animation and the animation on other humans can be a little bit stilted, but they don't tend to move much anyway, so it's not too noticeable. But the backgrounds and the props are actually really well done and rather impressively drawn. It kind of clashes with the animation of the characters, but I do think that it helps for the kind of tone that the show is going for. The characters themselves are fairly typical when it comes to adult cartoons, I think. Shake is the asshole who only cares about himself and is a bit of an idiot. Meatwad is the childlike and naive one, and a little bit of an idiot. And Frylock is the straight man, who is rather intelligent, and needs to put up with the other's antics. It is a rather done dynamic, but it's done because it works. and it works here. I didn't find myself hating any of the characters. Shake's antics were never infuriating, for instance, because he was usually treated as an asshole by the others when he did something awful, like try to put Meatwad in a microwave. But if there is a flaw that I had to point out, one thing that lowered the show a few notches for me, it would be Meatwad's voice. This is the biggest flaw in the show that I've seen.
Well, I want a unicorn with a horn and a banana seat and a banana suit, too. Give me that.
Well, I'll just waltz on down to the free present store. You think I have money to buy all that?
Ah, please, no.
No, not that kind of horn. Come on, use the hell.
Meatwad's voice is just so hard to understand. When I first watched the show, I had to turn on the subtitles because I just could not understand what he was saying. It continually took me out of the experience, and it made things hard to follow. And being able to follow along is kind of important in a series like this. This is a series where things like someone pulling a reverse switch on a toilet has their body sucked into a jet engine. Everyone else's acting is actually pretty good though, and it's not like Meatwad's voice is annoying or anything, I just can't make out what he's saying half the time. But let's talk about the comedy. Aqua Teen is a comedy, and how is it? Well, I can't say that I never laughed while watching it, but on the other hand, the thing that I laughed at the most wasn't even really a joke, or the show's fault at all.
You think they asked Tom Cruise this stuff before he signs on his movies?
I think that it might have helped if he did. On the other hand, it's not like the show annoyed me. I was invested in what happened. And now you're probably understanding why I make admirable animations and animated atrocities. Things that you feel kind of meh or in between on are extremely, extremely hard to review to say something interesting about. I understand that this is a very popular show, but for some reason I wasn't really laughing at it. And doing some research, I think that I know why. You know that trope Seinfeld is unfunny? Well, it's named after the sitcom Seinfeld. Seinfeld at one point in time was considered like the best sitcom of all time. It was the gold standard and people loved it. It lasted forever and ratings were consistently high. That sounds familiar about a show like this, doesn't it? However, many people going back to watch it now would find it kind of mediocre. Why is that? This is because Seinfeld inspired so many other shows that used its jokes and its shtick and adapted them to the next level. And this applies to any medium. The original Zelda, for instance. It was revolutionary at the time. Possibly one of the best games on the NES. But today, it's almost unplayable without a guide. And even with it, you're probably better off playing a more modern example of the series. In animation, The Simpsons was once risque and shocking. Now early Simpsons is about as tough as the stuff we aim directly at kids. For better or worse, Aqua Teen Hunger Force is very influential. When I asked myself, I'm not finding this boring, but why am I not finding this funny or interesting? I came up with a few answers. Aqua Teen Hunger Force is a show about guys just doing whatever, with no specific genre. We could have ghosts or aliens show up in one episode if we wanted. Well, I've seen that in Ed's world. Aqua Teen Hunger Force is a show where there's a world where there are different characters that are random anthropomorphic objects, animals, or something even weirder. That sounds a lot like The Amazing World of Gumball. Like I said, it was the most popular cartoon on Adult Swim, and that clearly influenced the humor and style of a lot of shows, including the most popular adult cartoon, Rick and Morty. On that level, I can definitely appreciate Aqua Teen Hunger Force in a historical sense. I can see it as an incredibly important cartoon, and we certainly wouldn't be where we are without it today. And yes, I do mean that in both a positive and a negative sense. No, I'm not going to talk about the Boston bomb scare. This is a review of the show itself. Is this a show that I could recommend? That's hard to say. Like I said, it takes a specific taste to enjoy the show, and it's not my taste. Am I glad that I saw it? Yeah, I can definitely say that I am. Whenever I get around to a very popular cartoon that I haven't gotten a chance to see, it's a good day, I'd say. I'm probably not going to watch it again, but it is a lot better than I expected, and I can give it a thumbs up on some level. Next time, well, we've got a finale to talk about. If you would like me to take a look at a show of your request, you can get this reward and many others by following the link in the description to my Patreon. However, before you do, there are some rules you should know. Remember, while I will be looking at up to 12 episodes, it's one review. On top of that, if you're suggesting a show, the show needs to have an English dub. I'm not going to be reviewing subtitled shows. I don't think I have the skill to do such a thing. If it's a movie, it can't be unrated, rated X, or NC-17. I think that's fair. But other than that, anything else is game within discretion. If it's something you want to torture me with, or you have a favorite show of all time, or it's something in between, have at it. Just follow the link in the description to my Patreon.